It's rare that a feud gets to play out on live radio, but that's exactly what happened in 2001 when both members of Blues Traveler and the Black Crowes were booked as separate guests and were set to appear the same morning on the Howard Stern radio show. Blues Traveler had an album out at the time called Bridge, while the Black Crowes released their own album the same week called Lions. The morning started with Blues Traveler frontman John Popper coming on the show and being told the Black Crowes frontman Chris Robinson wouldn't enter the studio until Popper left. Today, let's explore how the beef started, what happened on the Stern Show, and the aftermath. The Black Crowes and Blues Traveler would perform with each other as part of the Horde Festival, which stood for Horizons of Rock Developing Everywhere. It was a traveling rock festival that was the brainchild of Blues Traveler, and it would run from 1992 to 1998, and it would be largely inspired by Jane's Addiction frontman Perry Farrell's Lollapalooza Festival, which premiered in 1991. The 1995 version of the festival saw the Black Crowes headline, with Blues Traveler, Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, Wilco, and Morphine being on the bill. The Black Crowes frontman Chris Robinson would tell the LA Times in 1995 why he preferred the Horde Festival over Lollapalooza, saying, "Lollapalooza just didn't translate to me as a musical thing as much as an MTV thing. It just seemed more fabricated, more manufactured. It's like McDonald's counterculture. You're not going to get much culture hanging around the mall, and Lollapalooza seems like a big mall, but with more piercing stands." John Popper and Chris Robinson would even join each other on stage during that year's festival. The festival was also notable for promoting bootlegging, with the Morning Call newspaper interviewing the Black Crowes drummer Steve Gorman, who told the paper, "Every night you come out, and whenever I look out, it seems like the first thing I see is a big tree out there with a couple of mics hanging off of it. People are bringing pretty sophisticated equipment, actually." It would turn out that between 1995 and 2001, there was a beef brewing between both bands, with it coming out fully into the open in 2001. In May of that year, Chris Robinson and his bandmate drummer Steve Gorman were booked for the Howard Stern Show, and the same morning John Popper was booked as well. They were booked independently, so they wouldn't appear on the air at the same time. But typically whenever Stern has multiple guests on the same morning, it wouldn't be uncommon for them to meet in the green room or chat it up in the hallway. That didn't happen that morning, as Popper would appear first on Stern's show. A lot of the interview dealt with Popper's recent weight loss after undergoing a stomach stapling operation. And towards the end of John Popper's appearance, Stern mentioned that the Black Crowes were coming on next and asked Popper about the reported feud between the two parties. Popper, for his part, would claim he didn't know why Chris Robinson hated him, but did bring up an incident where they were sitting in with Warren Haynes at the Fillmore, and Haynes would take Popper to the side of the stage and tell him Chris Robinson was in, and I quote, "a real mood," and told Popper he wouldn't come on stage until he left. Popper would go on to say that Chris Robinson was, and I quote, "the only real dick I've ever met in rock and roll." Stern's vinyl-loving producer Baba Booey would shuffle back and forth between the green room where the Black Crowes were waiting and the studio where Popper was talking to Stern. Robinson would tell Howard's producer that Blues Traveler were, and I quote, "a novelty act," which made its way back to the studio. Popper would tell Stern that he thought the Black Crowes were a great band, and he liked the group's guitarist Rich Robinson, but did start to throw some insults Chris Robinson's way, as you can see here.
He just came from Memphis, where like we've been playing, so I've been trying to not have him see me because he won't come out unless if I'm there. So
really,
I don't, he's just got to pull up his button. I watched him yell at a fan just because he interrupted him.
They just wanted to be. They wanted to make sure that John was going to be gone before they came in.
Yeah. See, I don't know what I did. But cool.
And somebody did mention that you should have had your mouth sewed shut instead of your stomach.
Right.
Wow. What did you say?
See, you think
we had them on our Horde tour a couple years ago, and they were cool. They like to put up a lot of tapestries and stuff. And the only thing he wanted to talk to me about was how melted the candle should be when you're doing that really great performance, that take.
Well, guy's into
I'm thinking, turn the lights on. You want to work, sing. Why do you need a melted candle? Chris and I are opposites. I was fat, he was thin.
Right.
He married Kate Hudson. I'd make her happy in bed.
Yeah.
Hey now. I watched Almost Famous, man, and the only sad thing about the movie is that she lives that every day because he is like a 70s rock star.
Oh, boy.
Man, he's getting
no wonder
nasty.
he doesn't like you.
Well, yeah, now I've got repertoire.
All right.
I'm warmed up.
Once Popper finally left the studio, Robinson and Gorman came in. Here's what they had to say about the feud.
So what was with John Popper? I had no idea you got.
Care that much. I just don't care to be around him. I don't like his band. I don't like what they do. I don't like him. We did the Horde tour. We did the Horde tour in 1995, which was like their thing. But that year, it was the most successful concert tour. We were on it.
Right.
Yeah. We basically took the tour over, put a bunch of acts on that we wanted. We put the ticket prices the way we wanted so more people could come. And afterwards, he ran his mouth about our band. It's like, hey, Haas, play the harmonica, enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to hear that about. I mean, it was one thing for us to go play with a subpar group like that anyway. You know what I mean? But we got paid so handsomely, I could put up with listening to them from my luxury dressing room every night.
Popper popped his mouth off too much.
What did he say?
He had a problem with the fact. Well, I don't know what his problem was. What he said was that they compromised their integrity by having us, and that we were only there because we were a strong ticket seller in the southern markets.
I did manage to find 2 reviews from the Horde Festival in 1995. One was from a newspaper in Hartford that gave a pretty scathing review to the Black Crowes and a glowing review to Blues Traveler. The headline would read, "Horde Tour gives wrong band top billing," and the article would state that Blues Traveler should have headlined. A separate review from the LA Times echoed the same sentiments, saying, "Playing to a capacity crowd at the Olympic Velodrome, the 4 bands on Horde's main stage offered lessons on the use and abuse of rock history, with Wilco the ablest user, the headlining Black Crowes the worst abuser, and Blues Traveler and Ziggy Marley and the Melody Maker somewhere in between." It would turn out the beef would be quashed between both bands sometime in the 2010s, as Popper would appear on the SiriusXM show Sit Down with Alfred and Chris when he was promoting his book, where he revealed he ran into Chris Robinson at an airport a few years ago, and they had a cordial discussion. He would claim that Robinson seems to have settled down as he's gotten older, and drugs were likely to blame for the feud. Without providing much detail, here's a clip of the interview.
And it sounds like you patched things up a little bit with Chris at the end.
Yeah, well, I ran into him in an airport a while ago, and he seemed like he'd gotten older.
Yeah,
maybe it was the
happens.
divorce. Yeah, see, I feel like I've gotten older too, but maybe he's just not holding on to that stuff. I think part of the issue with us and the Crowes were when they were hanging out with us, they were really it was kind of dark. They were getting into some drugs that weren't.
And we're talking about like heroin, or
I can't say because I wasn't there. Like the thing is, the one they liked hanging out with a lot was Bobby, our bass player, and he was really getting, he was pretty serious about that stuff too. So it seemed to me that it was just like this time when they were going through a lot of stuff. And
you guys bore the brunt of some of that.
Maybe some of the anger of that time.
Well, because I emailed Steve Gorman from the Crowes. I don't really know him, but I emailed him. He responded. I was like, "Hey, we're talking to John Popper. I want to get. Do you have any insight to this?"
Yeah, does he?
And he goes, "No, man." He wrote me a really cool email just saying I don't know. He goes, "I don't know," and he's going through his own drama with that band.
In 2015, Robinson would look back at the Horde Festival and had this to say: "I had an incredible amount of fun at Horde. It was all done for the right reasons." That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. And as always, if you guys have suggestions for future topics, use the Google form in the description box below. Take care.